This edition of MacVoices is brought to you by Smile, the makers of the brand new PDF Pen 6, PDF Pen Pro 6, and PDF Pen for iPad and PDF Pen for iPhone. Find out more about all the flavors of PDF Pen at smilesoftware.com. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the Talk of the Mac community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, I'm a little late to this particular party because David Sparks wrote his most recent book a little while ago, and our schedules just have not meshed up. But he's here now, and we're going to talk about it. David, it's great to have you. Thanks for being here.
It's great to be here, Chuck.
David,
I'm glad my stalking worked. I've been following you around, looking in your windows at night.
And finding out I'm not home. Is that,
yeah. Have those puppy dog eyes. I'm just waiting for you so I can be on my favorite podcast.
Oh, yeah, right. Jeez, listen to this. David, how many books is this? I mean, I've kind of lost track. Is this 3, 4?
My kids were asking me that at dinner tonight. They're like, Dad, how many books have you written? Because they don't know either, which made me feel kind of bad, actually. But no, so I wrote 2 for Wiley, iPad at Work and Mac at Work. And now, since I've gone into the MacSparky Field guides, I've done 3 of those. I did Paperless, and then I did 60 mountain lion tips, and now this new one on Markdown.
But it's not a bad thing. I mean, you're so prolific that now we kind of lose track. It's, Star Wars 1, 2, and 3, but when you get to 5, 6, and 7, you just kind of lose track.
Hopefully I don't go that direction, though. That's my worry, frankly. I mean, when you write your own books and you're self-publishing, it's very easy to fall into the trap of starting to believe your own PR, and you don't have an editorial voice there to make sure you're not messing up.
Well, that's probably true, but at the same time, you have a pretty good sense, I think, of what works and what doesn't.
Yeah.
And the kind of message and product you want to deliver.
Yeah, it's funny because I'm working on the 4th field guide right now, and I do have an editor, and she wrote me back. She says, I don't really think you should say that. There was something I'd written in the book. I'll tell you about it afterwards because I don't want to give away the book title, but I thought it was kind of clever, but she thought I was going to offend half the population, so I decided not to include it.
I want to see what that is, but we'll talk about that offline. Just what could you possibly say that would offend half the population?
You'd be surprised. I'm pretty good at that.
Yeah. So, David, Markdown, what is it and why should I care?
Yeah. So Markdown is really neat, and all the nerds are talking about it these days. And what it is, it's something that John Gruber created, and I think a lot of people probably listening to your show know who John is. He writes the Daring Fireball blog, and he's kind of like the godfather of bloggers, of Mac bloggers. I mean, he was there first. He's extremely well informed. He's an extremely talented writer, and all of us that blog look up to him, I think, with the stuff he does. But he's also a really clever programmer, and when he started writing Daring Fireball, he wanted a simple way to write for the web, and HTML wasn't cutting it. And if you've ever used HTML, you understand it's difficult to write, and you've got to have the tags and the brackets, and there's a lot of overhead to it. And the other problem with HTML is it's hard to read because you have to put the links right next to the words that are the links, and like making bolds and bullet points. A lot of that stuff, it just gets ugly, and it's also easy to make mistakes because it's a computer language and it has to be very accurate. So John came up with Markdown, and it's a syntax that makes everything a lot easier. For instance, if you want to make something bold, you put an asterisk on each side of it. So if you want to write the word bold in bold, you'd say asterisk BOLD asterisk, and that's all there is to it, and that's a bold, which is a lot more difficult if you're going to do it in HTML. And John used this language to write for his website, and he's been using it for all these years. And because he's John Gruber, he just made it free. He put it on the internet for free, and it was out there. And it got some adoption, but it wasn't a huge thing. And then we fast forward, and the iOS becomes a big deal, and the iPhone, and more importantly, the iPad. And people start writing. This is where it really became a big deal to me, frankly, is I was writing for my iPad, and I wanted to include things like bold and rich text formatting, but the iPad really doesn't support rich text very well. And so I started using some apps like Byword is the one I use currently, but all these text apps that will sync the data very easily back and forth to the Mac and the iPhone and the iPad and Dropbox or wherever I want it. But I wanted to have formatting, so I started using Markdown for that. And so I've been a big user of Markdown for about 4 years now. And a lot of people keep asking me about it. I talk about it on the Mac Power Users, and some people, they say just what you said to me. I don't get it. Why do I even need this? And you do need it, because if you're writing text, you want a simple way to do the formatting. So this was my manifesto to Markdown. I share the book. I co-wrote with Eddie Smith, who's a really smart guy from practicallyefficient.com. Just a really smart guy. He's an actuarian for a living. And I'm a lawyer for a living. So Eddie and I get along really well because we're nerds, but we also have day jobs, and it was just a really good collaboration. And we wrote this book, and it explains how to do Markdown, what the best apps are for Markdown on the iPad, the iPhone, on the Mac, how to do it on the web. It's really a soup to nuts treatment. So if you don't know anything about Markdown and you buy the book, by the time you get to the end, you'll have a black belt in it. That's why we wrote it.
Okay, so this is actually the first time I've heard a good explanation of why I would want to learn yet another language, no matter how simple it is, because of the iPad and the iPhone. So I give you that. On the other hand, how widely adopted is Markdown? And I'm thinking about the ability to take text and move it into Pages, into Word, into a dozen different programs that I use. Can I rip it out on my iPad or iPhone and have it sync over?
Yeah, when it first started, you had to use, it was a terminal program that you ran, which, that's an immediate turn-off for everybody. It's like, am I going to go in the terminal and run a command? No, you're not. But because it's open source, all these developers have incorporated Markdown into their applications. Byword is a good example. Honestly, if you go into the Mac App Store or the iOS App Store and just search for Markdown, you're going to see probably hundreds of apps that support Markdown. Drafts on the iPhone does. I mean, almost everything I have supports Markdown. So let's say I write that letter and I use the bold underlining, the bold formatting like I explained earlier in my explanation with the 2 asterisks on it. And I want to put it into an email as rich text, or I want to put it into Pages as rich text. I can go in, for instance, Byword, which is, I believe, a $5 app in the App Store. I can write it in plain text there. It'll sync with iCloud directly to my iPhone and my iPad, so I can be writing that text for days on whichever device is in my pocket. When I'm done and I'm happy with the way it looks, I can say export to rich text, and then I can go into Pages and paste it, and it'll show up as rich text with the bold formatting, the underlining, headings, all that stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, and I'm kind of surprised that it's that easy.
Yeah, and also a lot of it will also export to HTML. So if you've got a WordPress site and you want to post that to the WordPress site, you just copy it to HTML and you post it into your WordPress and it goes up. It also does links. It does image links. I mean, it does all the stuff for the web because that's what John invented it for. I use it for writing legal briefs. I mean, I use it for everything. I just take all my notes in Markdown. It's really fascinating for me since the book came out because I've heard from so many people all over the world that are adopting Markdown in their business. I just spoke with someone the other day in the Philippines who's running a call center for a United States company, and now they've got everybody in the call center taking notes in Markdown on their computer system because they don't have rich text in their system, so they're using Markdown.
And it has the advantage of not having to take your hands off the keyboard.
Yeah. It's really clever.
Okay, so thinking ahead here, how many commands are there in Markdown? And you used the example for bold, and you're talking about image tags and all, but how many ways can we format text? There's
a lot. I mean, bold, underline, code text, italics. There's extensions to Markdown. This is all covered in the book. One of them is multi-Markdown, which Fletcher Penny did, that allows you to do tables and footnotes, meta tags. It goes pretty deep when you get into it. Another advantage of writing with Markdown is that it's a plain text file. It's not like a Microsoft Word file or a Pages file. I mean, when you think about it, when you and I are, we're old fogies in this business, right?
Well, one of us is maybe.
Well, I remember when MacWrite was a 1.0.
Okay. All right.
And I remember when the Mac was a pretty amazing new thing, and I wrote files in MacWrite back then. Well, I don't have any of those files anymore, but if I did, I'm not sure how in the heck I'd open them because those proprietary formats. Whereas if you write something in text, your grandkids will be able to read those files.
You mentioned multi-markdown, and I've gotten the sense from Mac power users that I guess there are several branches of this. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah. I mean, the way it works is there's Markdown, which is the original syntax developed by John. And my favorite extension of it is by Fletcher Penny. He's a physician in, I want to say South Carolina, but I'm not sure. But Fletcher's a really smart guy. He's a computer programmer and a doctor. And he wanted to use Markdown to write medical reports with. So he needed footnotes, a bibliography, there were a couple pieces of it that weren't necessary for John because he's not putting those things in Daring Fireball. So Fletcher took Markdown and extended it a little bit. He gave syntax to add those additional pieces. And that's the one extension of it I use. But frankly, most of the stuff I write isn't just plain Markdown.
Well, I'm not quite sure which falls where, but when you said tables, I mean, tables in HTML are a nightmare.
Yeah, they're so easy in Markdown. Yeah. Well, actually, multi-Markdown. It's just use pipes. You just, the pipe key.
Yeah.
For like a vertical line. You just put it in there. You got to read the book, Chuck. I'm going to turn you into a Markdown guy.
Yeah.
I'm on a mission.
In my spare time.
Well, it was funny because when we wrote the book, Eddie and I were talking about, they're like, nobody's ever written a book on Markdown. And because I think everybody thought it was crazy to do that. And I said, I don't care. I think this is something we have to get out there. And a lot of people are finding it and using it. I really enjoy talking about technology and making your life easier. And maybe it's just because of my family or my job or whatever. But the whole idea of all this stuff for me is to help readers learn something where they can finish their work a little faster, make it a little better, get home and be with their kids or with their model airplanes or whatever it is that they do for fun. And whenever I get an email from someone who tells me that's what happened, it just encourages me to write another one. And I think Markdown is one of those things that can really up your game.
Well, again, you make it sound so simple and so approachable. And knowing you, that's because it is. That you can step up to it. You may have to do a cheat sheet for a little while, but it almost sounds like in some ways, oh boy, the old computer programming, the old word processing. Well, I can't say it.
Word Basic, you mean, or
no, farther back than that.
WordPerfect had a formatting.
Maybe it was WordPerfect. WordStar.
Yeah.
WordStar.
No, this is way easier than that.
That's even easier than WordStar.
Oh yeah, way easier.
Okay.
It's just not that difficult. And the book has an hour and a half of video in it. It's a MacSparky Field guide, so it's full of screencasts. And so for every new piece of it, we've got a screencast. So first you learn how to do the bold. Well, I just taught your audience how to do bold. It's really not that hard, but we did a video on it anyway, so you could see it. And then you learn how to do italics. And we go through step by step. And if you watch each video, by the end of it, it's second nature. It's really not that hard. In fact, that's one of the complaints against the book is, why did you make a book on Markdown? I could have searched the web and figured it out on my own. Which, it's a legitimate criticism, really, because it's not that hard. But I know that for a lot of people, myself included, I like it when someone spends the time to put it all in one place and figure out the right tools and just kind of guide me along. And that's what you're paying for with the book. I mean, if you really want to learn Markdown and you don't want to spend $10 on the book, just get on Google. You'll figure it out.
Yeah, but I hear that from a lot of authors. They almost apologize for putting the time in and doing these things. And it's like, no, wait a minute. You mean to tell me it's not worth $10 of my time, assuming I want to learn Markdown. It's not worth $10 of my time to pay you to make it easier for me. No way.
No,
no
I
way.
didn't say that. I think you're better off getting the book,
Yeah.
honestly, because not only do we show you how to learn Markdown, we also have chapters devoted to the Mac, the iPad, the iPhone, and we show you the best apps and the best workflows. And one of the things we did on this book, which I'm really excited about, is the workflow section, because I always, at the end of my field guides, give kind of my own workflow about how I do these things. And with this book, I was able to extend that to other people as well. So I did interviews with Merlin Mann, Brett Terpstra, Federico Vitici, and others. So I had 5 or 6 interviews at the end of the book. They're audio interviews, and they're embedded in the book. So then you can hear from somebody who uses Markdown every day and their favorite apps and workflows, which I thought was kind of fun. So it's an hour and a half of video, but then there was also audio interviews too.
And now, a word from Smile, the makers of the brand new PDF Pen 6 and PDF Pen Pro 6, the best utility for working with PDF documents. As good as PDF Pen and PDF Pen Pro were, PDF Pen 6 and PDF Pen Pro 6 are better. And now, both are even better with the recent update to version 6.0.2. Smile has added the option to toggle autosave in versions, has cut way down on memory usage, respects document permissions for the insert page numbers function, and lots more. And all that is on top of the ability to export PDFs to Microsoft Word, a new editing bar, Retina display optimization, drag and drop to reorder library items. The list just goes on and on. Whether you get PDF Pen 6 or PDF Pen Pro 6 from the Smile website, or PDF Pen 6 or PDF Pen Pro 6 in the Mac App Store, go get PDF Pen, or better yet, PDF Pen Pro. And don't forget about PDF Pen for iPhone and PDF Pen for iPad. PDF Pen is the essential utility for working with the PDFs you encounter every day. Thanks to Smile for their support of MacVoices. So, you say that there are a number of apps in the App Store, Mac and iOS, that support Markdown. And you've just mentioned Byword. Isn't that Brett Terpstra's?
No, that's I believe it's a guy in Spain who wrote that app. But I mean, there's one called IA Writer that does it. Scrivener on the Mac does it. There's quite a long list. Ulysses, I believe, now does it. There's Markdown is showing up everywhere. Maybe because there's this arms race among app developers, and they want their text editor to be the one that you buy. So they're going to add these features. And now as Markdown gets some traction, that's a very common feature that people add.
And it also sounds like it's not something that takes a great deal of their time to implement.
No. Like one of them, like on the iPad chapter, we actually demonstrated, I think it ended up being 4 different apps, because Eddie and I had several that we thought were really good. Like Writing Kit on the iPad. It's an amazing app for Markdown support. It's got the preview, the good apps. Not only do they let you write in Markdown, they preview it for you. So when you push a button, you get to see it rendered with bold and italics and headings and vertical lines and links and all the things that you put in. And some of the apps do a really good job of that.
Okay, you convinced me. I got to go learn Markdown.
Yeah, just read the book. You'll enjoy it.
Yeah, I don't doubt that for a second.
I know you're a foodie, so I would say go to one of your favorite restaurants, bring your iPad and some headphones so you don't, make the people upset near you. Have a nice, 5-course dinner, and by the end, you'll probably be pretty good at it.
Oh, jeez. Okay, that's quite the sales pitch, David. That really is.
I can just see you doing that, Chuck.
Yeah, I can too.
Come on. We know. In fact, I want to ask you something. I guess I should ask this offline. I'm going to Portland next month, and I was just telling my wife, I said, I bet Chuck would know a good place to eat in Portland.
No,
do you?
No, because I haven't been to Portland.
Okay.
Now Vegas? Yeah, Vegas is a little different, but
yeah, I know. I know Portland. About you in Vegas.
Yeah.
There's stories.
Yeah, well, they're all untrue, because I'm just the poor lonely guy sitting alone in the corner with headphones learning Markdown with a 5-course dinner.
I bet Chuck Joyner is like on a list in Vegas where they don't even let him play blackjack anymore because they caught him counting cards. There's a whole nother side to you, Chuck.
Yeah, well, there are a few other sides, but we won't get into that now. David, I do want to ask you, though, the MacSparky Field guides, the way you focused on things, it feels like there's a trend in tech writing away from the big, thick, ugly manual-type books to a lot more tightly focused, informative, in some cases recipe books, but and I mean recipe as in you want to get this done, so this is how you do it. Do you feel like you're part of that trend in focusing a little more on these apps instead of just writing, how to go under every menu, 5 steps deep and what command is there?
Well, maybe. I wrote books for a big publisher, and that was a lot of fun, but it was also a real learning experience for me. The way big publishers work is they've got to print out a color page for every bit of text you write and for every screenshot you shoot. And that costs money. And, they have spreadsheets where they figure out where the limit is on what you can do as an author. So when I did a book, for instance, and I wrote a chapter in it on Paperless, they said you get something in the neighborhood of 12 screenshots and 3,000 words. And I knew at the time that that wasn't enough to really explain the topic. So when I decided to write a book on Paperless, I took 25,000 words, an hour and a half of video, and Lord knows how many screenshots. And it was a much better product. And people all over the world write me and tell me that now they're paperless because they finally get it. And that's a great way to learn. And I think that the difference is now the tools are available. There's two things, I guess. The tools are available for a simpleton like me to create these things. And secondly, the distribution model exists for someone like me to get it out there in the world. Just even 5 years ago, I would have had a real hard time getting the MacSparky Field guides off the ground because people wouldn't know where to go to buy them. And now Apple has an iBook store, and they have the tool for me to build these things in. So I consider myself really fortunate to be kind of in the right place at the right time, but I also have a voice for this stuff, and I get a lot of joy out of writing these things. I mean, I crack myself up, and I have a good time, and I love interacting with people who read the books. It sounds all hippie, but the whole MacSparky thing, in a lot of ways, is like my savior. I just love doing this. I mean, here I am, this old guy, being practicing law all these years, and now I have this really fun, invigorating thing in my life. So I'm very fortunate.
Well, I know exactly what you mean by being fortunate. I think we both feel fortunate to be part of this community of enthusiasts, of people that are excited about what they can do with technology. And I almost feel that some of the younger people they get it. Sometimes they don't get it as far as being enthusiastic about it because it's part of their background. But there's still so much opportunity out there to learn things and do things. And as we get more fragmented, you have to make a choice about where you want to go. Maybe you can be a jack of all trades and master of none, but I think the time is fast approaching when you have to focus on 2, 3, 4, 5 things. Sure, get a smattering of everything else, but focus on what really interests you and run with it.
Yeah, well, it's a blast. The field guides are just my mission now. That's my job one in terms of the MacSparky stuff. I mean, I love the podcast too, but writing these field guides is very enriching for me. Just even the process of it, I enjoy every minute of it. I'm already 15,000 words into the next one. So it's just something I just keep doing. So as long as I'm having a good time and people are enjoying reading them, I'm going to keep making them.
And that carries over. I mean, I don't care what you say. The people that slog through books, after a while you get a sense that they're slogging through them. Or if you don't, take that book and then go and read a MacSparky Field guide. And this guy over here really enjoyed talking about the book and writing the book. And pretty soon you look at the people who are just writing to write, and it's just not a pleasant experience.
I even have a blast like making the background materials for the screencast. Like I like trying to make it a funny letter or just something kind of ridiculous. I just did one for Smile with the new release of Text Expander Touch for the iPhone and iPad. They just came out with version 2.0, and I did a screencast for them. And if you read the snippets, it's about a company called Pants Limited. That just makes me laugh so much. And almost nobody gets it. I get a few emails from people that get the irony of that name, but I don't care. I just had a lot of fun writing about that company.
I think you need some time on the couch, David.
Ah, that's the best part. That's the best part. If you did get one of my books, definitely stop and look at what's on the screen and the background letters and the stuff, because I have too much fun writing about it.
Which book was it that you did something? What was it? Area 51?
Yeah, iPad at Work was all of the screenshots were about a company called Area 51 that sold tinfoil hats, and they had a CEO who was kind of crazy, and then they were going to make a spaceship headquarters, and it's just and then they had an event at there was a company memo about the incident at the annual hot dog barbecue at Stonehenge. It was just goofy stuff. I mean, it's really not even that funny when you're honest. When you step back and look at it, it's like, yeah, Sparks tries to be funny, but it's really not that funny. But it giggles me, so I guess that's all that matters, right?
One day we'll crack your code, David.
Yeah.
Well, there's secret messages hidden in these books, and we just have to figure out what they are.
Well, it's fun because you do it, but you don't make any mention of it in the book. It's just kind of a story within the story.
Right. So the book is available in the let's see, the iOS App Store.
Yeah, well, no, it's in the iBook Store.
It's in the iBook Store, excuse me.
And this is the tricky part. So the iBook Store iBooks only work on the iPad. And so if you have an iPad and you want to read the book, go into the iBook Store and you can buy it. And that's the best version. It's all encapsulated into an iBook. It's gorgeous the way it's laid out. We spent money on it. We have really great imagery in it. And all the screencasts are embedded in it. So when you download it, if you're on an airplane or anywhere in the world, you can read all the content and the media. If you don't have an iPad, you can buy a PDF of it. And the PDF is available from the website. They're both $10. And if you get the PDF, it downloads a PDF, but it also downloads all of the video in iTunes-friendly format, all of the screenshots, all of the audio interviews. So you get all the same content, but it's not all put together in one nice package for you. So like you could read the PDF, then you have to go to the folder and watch the video. And I played with many different solutions to try and make that one file, but it was just too risky. A lot of people will have computers where it will crash. It's a lot easier if you just have the media separate from the PDF. So there are two versions, and they're both great. If you have an iPad, though, I recommend getting the iBook Store. I actually make less money when someone buys the iBook Store because, Apple gets its cut, whereas if they buy the PDF, I get the full amount. But I still recommend get the iBook Store one because I think it's just a better read. I like the fact that it's all self-contained. It will take some space on your iPad too, though. The book is, I think it's about 900 megabytes because it's like downloading a movie. You got an hour and a half of video.
Yeah, that's true. I hadn't thought about it that way, but yeah.
Yeah.
And
it's worth it, though. And you can delete it afterwards and then re-download it. Don't let that hold you back.
Well, that's true, too. You do have that option.
Yeah.
900 megs. Okay. 900. That's less than $100 megs.
Yeah. Well, I'm very lucky that Apple doesn't charge me a download fee.
Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely I get my money's worth when I pay them, the 30% that they take.
Yeah.
Because they're hosting these really big files. And then when I release updates, I do updates to these books. In fact, Chuck, as we're recording this on what is today, the 5th of June, next week I'll be releasing version 1.3 of Paperless. So I've been updating these books.
Really? I don't think I realized that you were doing updates to some of the others.
Yeah, no, that's part of the deal. I'm updating them for the readers, and then, I haven't really figured it out. At some point, I'll go to a version 2 and then charge again, but not for a while.
Well, again, that's the nice thing about these. That they're paperless. So
Yeah.
you can do the updates. You can change things and say, okay, this solution used to be the best. Now this one's the best, or they're tied, or whatever.
Well, it's like iPad at Work has now been out nearly a year, actually over a year now. And I was in Barnes & Noble the other day and saw it on the shelf, and that made me really happy as I was putting it on top of all the other books before I left. And I was looking through it, and there was a couple things in there that have changed since the book was released, and I really would like someone buying the book now to have the right information, but there's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah. Well, this just means that, self-publishing, at least for you, is definitely the way to go.
Yeah, I love it. I just love it. Yeah. Another thing I like about it is the voice. When you write for a big publisher, I mean, there's just certain things they won't let you say. They want it to be pretty vanilla. And I'm not, I don't write like a sailor, but I do like to have fun, Like, do you know this? The stated mission statement of the MacSparky Field guides is to turn its users into badass wielders of technology. That's the motto of the books, all of them. I'm pretty sure nobody that published a book that was in Barnes & Noble would let me say that.
Probably not.
Did I just get you a dirty tag? I'm not sure. Can I say that?
Okay. Yeah. No, I don't think that. I mean, that's hardly PG. At this stage of the game, it's hardly PG. I'll tell you that.
Well, it makes me feel rebellious when I say it. I think I might make a T-shirt that says that. I don't know.
I want one.
All right.
Okay.
You'll get one.
All right. You got it. And of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't say something. You referenced it earlier about Mac Power users. That's you show up here once in a while when you write a new book, but over there you're there all the time.
Yeah, it's so much fun. Katie and I have such a great time. I don't know if you've listened to the last few shows. She's gotten the habit of threatening to take my life with a Klingon pointy sword, which apparently is called a batlith.
A batlith, yeah.
Yes. I don't know. Katie's getting feisty over there. I'm not sure about her.
You better watch her, David. I mean, I know, I know she's on a separate coast, but
doesn't matter. She knows people.
Yeah, she does. She's an attorney. Yes, she does. Yeah. Well, David, it's great to talk to you. This is a new book, and I have the impression that it won't be that long, and you need to get back quickly to talk about the next book. We can't let it go as long as this one did. I'm
like Apple. I'll ship it when it's done.
Ship it when it's done, but give me a week's notice or so we can get on the schedule and work it out. Okay.
You can just go outside. I'll be the guy outside your window.
That doesn't offer me any comfort at all.
I'm not really happy with the new paint job on the house, by the way, Chuck. I like the old color.
Thank you. And the landscaping, hopefully.
Yeah. And you need to feed your cat.
No, that's the neighbor. I don't have a cat.
Oh, okay.
No.
Well, that's good. I think we're digressing.
We are.
Yeah.
David, thanks so much. It's great talking to you. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Chuck.
Folks, I'm Chuck Joyner. We'll have links in the show notes to Mr. Sparks and to all of his books, everything we talked about here, and to everything we're doing at the MacVoices group. Please check us out. Until the next time, I'm Chuck Joyner. Thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for links, show notes, to subscribe, to connect with Chuck on Twitter, app.net, Google+, Facebook, and for more Apple, Mac, and tech-related shows, including MacVoices, Mac Notables, the Mac Jury, and the MacVoices Briefing. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com.